Hello crafty friends, this is the Papered Chef here. Welcome to part 1 of my 3-part series on how to create Hershey Nugget Treats featuring the Let It Snow suite by ScanNCut. In this first part of the series, you're going to work with patterned paper. Patterned paper is used for 3 elements in this project. It is used for creating the toppers, these cute toppers, the Hershey Nugget Wrappers, and it's also used for creating the hats on the Let It Snow Treats. You'll get a better view of these treats once I show you the designer series paper, once we unload the paper. But for now, I have the paper sitting facing up. I have this little piece of paper, and that's the first one we're going to start with. I'm going to show you right now how to create the toppers and the Hershey Nugget Wrappers, so let's just get started. Okay, so I have the paper facing this orientation. Each pack of the specialty designer series paper in the Let It Snow suite is double-sided. Okay, so I thought this was a great one for this project. We're using the CM350 because in the last series I had on craft fairs, and I showed you how to create doggy treats, we used the SDX125. I wanted to give equal time to my CM350 users, but you can follow along with any model of ScanNCut you have anywhere in the world. You can follow along with this tutorial. Okay, so when you turn on your machine, you're going to see pattern and scan. All I've done so far is load the mat. That's all I've done. We're going to go to pattern. We're going to create 2 toppers because you never just create one treat. Always create a couple things if you're working just for efficiency. So let's go ahead and create 2 treat toppers. Select the square. You want to change the square to a rectangle. If you try to change the width and height, they stay in proportion. So let's change it to a rectangle by clicking on this button here. The arrows going in different directions. That means I can change the width and the height independently. We're going to make the width of this rectangle 2.25 inches. That's because the cellophane bags I'm using, which will be linked in the description, are 2 inches wide. You always make the topper a little bit bigger than your bags. Otherwise, your bags will stick out of the top of your topper. So that's why the width is 2.25 inches for this topper. And the height is 5 inches. We're not using the machine to score, even though we could use our machines to score, because I prefer using Simply Scored or any scoring tool. Go ahead and create 2 treat toppers. And all of the measurements will be in the description of this video. We have our 2 treat toppers with designer series paper. Let's go ahead while we're at it and create some nugget wrappers. You're going to go to add. Again, same thing, the shapes, a square, change the square to a rectangle, and this time the width is 1 inch wide for the Hershey Nugget Wrappers. Of course, if you have other cute candies you can use in another part of the world, then you have a different measurements. You can actually do the same thing with Hershey miniatures, but of course your measurements aren't the same, but so fun. Some wrappers are really, some candy's really fun to wrap. 3.25 is our height. Even though we only need 5, let me show you this, for each of our nugget treats we're creating, I'm going to go ahead and have you make 12 wrappers because that way it's just efficient because of the way that they fit onto this piece of designer series paper. You'll see what I mean. So go ahead and make 12. Plus you can use the extra Hershey Nuggets for putting into tag treats, which I taught you how to make earlier. I'll link to that related video. Okay, so there we have 12 wrappers, 2 treat toppers. If your screen doesn't look like this, it's probably because your pattern interval was set to a higher number. My pattern interval in the settings is set to 1. That means everything is going to cut close together. We're going to say okay. Now we're using designer series paper. We're using the CM350, which means we need to set our blade depth. When I cut designer series paper, I use a blade depth of 3. However, if the paper is foiled, which this one's not, let me just double check. No, this one's not one of the foiled ones. If it's one of the glittery foiled pieces of designer series paper, I would have gone up to a blade depth of 4 because there's some glitter in there, or foiling, or some kind of thicker paper. But for regular designer series paper, a blade depth of 3 is just fine. Okay, we're going to go ahead and say cut. Click on the cut button and start. Okay, we'll see you in 2 minutes when this cuts out. We are finished cutting. We're going to say okay, and we're going to unload the mat. Okay, so now I want to move my machine out of the way and just show you these treat toppers and Hershey Nugget Wrappers. Okay, you're going to peel. See, this was a pattern interval of 1, meaning everything cut close together. You get a lot out of your paper that way. We're going to go ahead and peel these off the mat. And of course, you could have made more, right? You could have made more. Like I'm always telling you to make a lot of everything at once. My mat's not super sticky, so these do peel right off. But you can, the best way to peel if your mat is sticky is to use your little spatula. So you can just sort of bend them out a little bit and use your spatula to get those off. Okay, so what I want to do now, before we cut the little hats, is we're not going to mess with the topper right now. We're just going to put those off to the side. But because I'll get into the scoring and assembling in video 3. But we want to wrap a couple nuggets to give you a good idea of how to do this. That way, when you go to the next part of the video, you already have other paper cut. You already have whatever materials you have. Maybe you don't have Let It Snow Sweet. Maybe you have something else, and you already have all your wrappers, your Hershey Nugget Wrappers cut. You have put them together, and you're ready for the next part. Okay, so I'm using, family size, but of course use whatever nugget size you get at the store. Okay, and then I'm just going to never use glue when you're adhering your wrappers. Okay, never use glue. And by the way, the reason I'm not tilting my camera is because I have a heck of a time tilting it back to the right angle for this, so that the light doesn't shine on the machine. But anyway, so that's why my camera's at a funny angle, but I know you can see this. So this is what I mean. So we have the wrapper, and we're going to turn it over. And don't ever use glue, because you don't want glue seeping in. Whenever you have edible items, I'm just putting a couple little lines of rolling adhesive. I particularly like this tape glider, but you can use snail adhesive. Just don't use liquid glue, because when you're working with food items, especially at craft fairs or gifts, you don't want glue seeping into your food items. I just put a couple little lines of rolling adhesive on there. And then if it's a light color paper, I would use the darker nuggets. So for example, I wouldn't put this paper maybe with this nugget because it's kind of a light color. I might take this, since it's a cute little snowman, and pick a dark color, like the copper nugget, and put this wrapper around it. Okay, and that's it. We're going to do this again so you can really see it. Now, this is what I mean about the orientation. That's why I wanted my snowman sticking straight up. I'm going to show you what I did earlier when I didn't pay attention to the orientation. And it's no big deal because I have other projects I'm making. Is my snowman ended up, I went down watching TV, went downstairs, wrapped all my nuggets, and then came up to assemble them, and I'm like, oh, okay, they're sideways. Okay, so you don't want it's okay if they're sideways for the other treats, like I can show you later, the tag topper treats. And you can still make a different size tray and put them this way. But really, you want them like in this orientation, so when they're stacking up, they match the orientation of your topper. Details do matter, folks, so that's why I'm letting you know. and as many times as I made these, it cracks me up that I still, do that. All right, so let's do one more, or let's just do, make sure you can see this. So if you're gonna have, if you're making a tray, you might make 3 of these. So let's see, or 2. You're gonna have 2 different patterns in each tray. So I would wrap them in the same colors. It would be nice. So maybe you could wrap 3 of these with the copper little backgrounds. And it's really nice because inside each one, there's always a snowman showing. The other side is cute too, by the way, and you can even stamp onto this side, little snowflake or something, and before you wrap your nugget. But I think I'm going to use all the snowman sides that I can because they're just super cute. Okay, so again, I just 2 lines of adhesive. You got to see that. I just stick it on, and I just overlap it on the back there. And that's it, okay? And you're wondering, oh, but you're covering up the fact that you're covering up the type of chocolate it is, right? I am. I'm covering up because it does tell you what it is. It'll say extra creamy milk chocolate with toffee and almonds. Okay, it'll say that on the nugget, and I am covering that up. Therefore, that's why I make labels with my kind computer, like with Microsoft Word, and I make labels. Contains nuts. Hershey Nuggets milk chocolate with almonds. That's why I do that, because I am covering up the wrapper, and you don't want to cover up the wrapper. What if people have food allergies, right? All right, so anyway, let's move on to cutting the hats. I hope you got that concept. I want to show you the rest of the paper. I need to clear my table. Sorry for all the noise. I'm going to clear my table a little bit. So you go off and you cut a bunch of these papers. You can get 30, by the way, at least 30. And then you can go in a different orientation and get more than 30 on one page, on one sheet of designer series paper, if you just want to cut all wrappers. Because you can also do the treat toppers in cardstock. You don't have to use designer series paper. All right, so now I'll show you the rest of the stack. So you saw that this paper, so there's 12 sheets in every stack of this specialty designer series paper, and on the other side is this one. This one makes great snow backgrounds for like the Elfie stamp set and things where you just want to put like a little elf at the North Pole. Great background. For a moose who's in the snow scene, Merry Moose, great background. So that paper, that's why I didn't cut it off, just so you have some for other projects. It's pretty cool. All right, let's put that off to the side. So here's what we're doing next. We're still working with pattern paper. We're going to cut some of these Santa hats. Look at that beautifully glittered paper. And on the other side, you saw that, okay? And then this one, just real quick, if you want to mess with your orientation, so when you're making nuggets, I just want to give you a good look at this paper. When you're creating your nuggets, these would make good nuggets, but some of the trees won't fall in the size of the nugget wrapper. Okay, so a lot of the trees get cut off. So again, I made that mistake. So I'm thinking better not use that for my nugget wrappers, because it cuts off too much of the trees, and they're too beautiful and they make great backgrounds. But the other side was really nice, so I ended up using it anyway, even though I cut off a lot of trees. You saw how in my mitten examples, I use that piece. Okay, again, I'm just showing you these close up now. Don't waste these for nugget wrappers. Okay, don't waste these, because this one here cuts out with the snowman builder punch. You can punch out lots of glittered snowmen, and these make great little note cards, especially on the little whisper white note cards and things. Okay, so this paper, nope, don't waste it on nuggets. You could use the back, but I still wouldn't waste it on nuggets. Too beautiful, too glittery. I showed how to cut this out with using the Brother ScanNCut earlier, maybe a couple months ago. I showed how to cut out these snowmen. Again, they're great for cutting out individually elements or backgrounds, so don't use them for your nuggets. But definitely use this one for your nuggets, and it doesn't matter which way you put this paper. The mittens, nugget wrappers go good either way. So if you're going to make a lot of nugget wrappers, this is the one. But you might want to, it depends on how you want your stripes to go. You can check out the other side. I don't particularly care which way my stripes go. All right, let's get into this paper now. So if you've been watching my channel, you know that there's a pencil trick for cutting things that are not connected. I just want to talk about the trick, but we're not going to use the trick right now. I just want to tell you though, so you're not like, but all this paper doesn't work. Okay, if you want to cut out this particular hat, it is not one piece. This white blends right into the background. The white glitter on the top of the hat blends right into the background. So what you would have to do, I'm just going to do one. I'm just going to do one to show you here. One. You're going to have to do a pencil and enclose this. And also the lines along the side of the hat. They're not enclosed. Okay, so you would have to use the pencil trick on all those hats. Particularly, I don't mind that. I'm not using those hats. I ignored them. I'll show you how to ignore the things you don't want to cut. But that's the pencil trick. That's the only way to cut out the hats. You're going to say, you know, they didn't scan in, but that's because you didn't outline it in pencil. These hats are fine. They will cut out, no problem. You can cut some of those hats out. These hats might get cut apart a little bit because there's broken pieces. There's white that's going to blend into the side. So if you want that kind of hat to cut out, you might have to do a little pencil trick. Okay, but I'm ignoring that whole section of the page. I'm not even worried about that right now. I'm just going to cut out a couple hats from the top of the page and a couple pieces of holly. We'll do a couple hats, a couple pieces of holly. Later, when you have more time, you could cut out this whole sheet of hats. If you do ignore what's in between the hats, you could still use those little scraps for other things, or you can cut out the little hats as well. And I will show you what those look like just to give you an idea. They are super cute and they're going to cut out really nicely, and you can put them on your snowman as well. These hats, using the pencil trick, cut out just fine. but we're worried about the top hats right now for our particular project. So let's bring the ScanNCut back. And we're just going to load that piece of paper onto the mat. Okay, just give it a good rub. If your mat's not very sticky, and you do need painter's tape, be sure when you're doing a scan, which we're doing now, we're not cutting, we're scanning and then cutting. Be sure that you don't cover up these registration marks because they're needed to align with the scanner. So if you do use painter's tape, use it later after you do your scanning. All right, so I'm going to load the mat. I'll show you every step. Oh, by the way, if you want to save your nugget wrappers so you can use this again, you can. Let's go back here. All right, so we have our nugget wrappers. We could clear the screen right now, or we could just go ahead and save. Okay, save. Where do you want to save it? Save it to the machine. My machine's probably going to be full. Let's see if it lets me save it to the machine. I think I cleared out some space. There it is. It's number 161. Okay, so let's go home. Home button. Delete. Okay, if I want to retrieve this, I want to make some more nuggets. It's holiday season. Pattern. Go into the save data. I saved it on the machine. There it is. Go to page 10. I'm going backwards. You could scroll to page 10, and there's my file that I just saved. Okay, so this is a way to be more efficient, and you can make more of these. Okay, let's go home. Let's go home. Now we're back to home, and we're going to do pattern and scan. We're going to use scan. We're going to use direct cut because we're directly cutting out these little hats. Okay, let's say this is where it wants to store the data. We're going to store the data on the machine. This is a temporary storage area. Even though these hats are, it's a color sheet of hats, we are still using black and white recognition mode because there's good contrast between the hat and the holly and the background. So we're going to keep it at black and white recognition mode. You can change it to color in that area there, but we're not going to. We're just going to leave it at black and white. So anyway, let's go ahead and load the mat. Let's go ahead and start. So we're going to scan in. It's going to scan in the whole sheet. I don't expect any of those little Santa hats to be recognized except for one. The one that I outlined in pencil. That's the only one I really expect to be recognized. And it's way down. It was kind of down there somewhere. Because it would be very tedious. And that's why to me it's not worth it. It'd be quicker to fussy cut. Or fuzzy cut. No, fussy cut. My sister always tells me I'm pronouncing it wrong. It would be quicker to fussy cut those hats than it would be to try to outline them in pencil, I think. All right, so anyway, let's say okay. And now this is a big hot mess, right? You're like, whoa! But it's not going to be when we just zoom into just one little area. Work with one little area at a time, and then we can show you how to like delete the ones you don't want. So we'll just go in here and I'm just going to go in here and get a couple hats that I want. Or here, let's just do this one. We're going to get that hat, this hat, maybe a couple pieces of holly. Okay, I'm zooming in to show you what's going on. Okay, I'm only selecting one area because if I really cut out all these, I could be here all day. And we don't want to be here all day, right? So I just want to cut out, maybe we're going to get rid of, so there's this hat we don't need, this hat. Let's see. Let me zoom in some more. Okay. Well, that hat looks fine, so we could cut that one out. This one we have to trash because it's only a partial hat. Okay? So that one we would trash because it doesn't have the bottom of the hat. That hat's fine, and this hat's fine. So, okay, I'm okay with all that. But you want to do a couple things. We don't want an outline distance on these hats. No outline distance. Let me show you again. Because I don't want the white little part showing. I just want to cut the hat along the line. And as far as the holly goes, I want the holly to cut out in one piece. And right now it's looking like, it's kind of looking like it's not really one piece. But if you say ignore object size and you just get rid of everything but maybe less than 1/4 of an inch, say, it might get rid of some of the things in the middle of those holly pieces. But we're going to try it right now. So we're going to say, I'm going to say okay, and I'm going to go in and edit mode, and zoom in. And I'm going to get rid of the partial hat there, trash that hat. And let's zoom in. I think my holly's okay. I got a piece of holly, piece of holly. Okay, my holly is okay. I was hoping that it's one piece. That's how I test it. If I select it and it doesn't select as one piece, then I know my holly was not scanned incorrectly. But I do need to get rid of that one little piece. So what I'm doing, crafty friends, is I am in the editing mode. I'm checking that the holly didn't come out in several little pieces, and it didn't. It's really good. Okay, it's all good. I like that hat. That hat did a good job. All my holly's good. This one hat here, though, I am about to delete because it's one of those little Santa hats that I did not outline, and it won't cut out unless I delete it. I mean, we don't want it to cut out, so I'm going to delete it. All right, so let's say okay and trash that. I'm happy with the way everything is going to be cut now. Now, I'm using specialty paper, but I still am not using, I can still keep it on a blade depth of 3 for cutting the pattern paper. And that's because even though I have glittered paper and it's all glittered, and I said usually if there's glitter, I'm not cutting through the glittered sections. So keep it on a blade depth of 3. And then, you know, for the designer series paper, and we're going to go ahead and say start. Okay, I'll see you in 2 minutes after this little hat's cut out. Welcome back. We're finished cutting the hats and the holly with no outline distance. Now, usually when you watch me, I usually have an outline distance, but not this time. So let's do this. I'm going to test it to make sure before I unload the mat. I need to make sure, yes, it did cut well. Before you unload your mat, if something didn't really cut well, maybe you have to change your blade depth. You do that before you unload your mat, because once you unload the mat, you're never going to be aligning those images at the right spot again. So now I can go ahead and tilt my camera finally, because I'm done with the scan and cut portion of this particular video. Okay, so now you can see better what I'm doing. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to peel the designer series paper away again. I can't stress enough to go ahead and do your whole sheet of these. If you're going to be making lots of nugget treats, do a whole sheet of these like I did. But I already have lots of hats. I'll show you my little hats in a minute. So now you're going to peel these off the mat with your little spatula. You're going to peel your little hats off and your little holly. And you might be saying, Paper Chef, I have a snowman builder punch. That's great. I hope you have a snowman builder punch. I have one. It's awesome. You can make your own little hats that way with the snowman builder punch. You might have the stamp set. You can cut out the hats using the stamp set as well, but you can create the hats using your stamp set. But to me, details matter, and I think the way that these hats are shaded and how nice these hats are with the holly just give the whole project a more of a three-dimensional effect. And I think since I have holly, since I have hats, I mean, if you have the best products, then use them. That's my attitude. So I think the reason I'm going to keep using these kind of hats as much as I possibly can until I run out of the paper, and then I would start using stamped images, is because they just look really nice. They look like, you know, I hand colored them and they're shaded. Okay, so here's what we're about to do. I'm just going to show you just gluing those together. We're just going to make a bunch of hats. And then I hope by the next tutorial, my crafty friends will go on and make some hats, and then you have your pieces that you need. Or whatever you're going to be doing for these Hershey Nugget treats. You're going to have your pieces cut out though. You're going to have your nuggets wrapped. So this is the glue of choice I use. I just like tacky glue, so I'm going to hold this in my hand. And I'm going to put the holly onto the hat. So put a blob of glue on there. I probably didn't need that much glue. I'm using my little tweezers. And I'm just going to place it on there. Okay. And notice I put glue all the way up the hat, not just on the, just focus that, not just on the berries, but I want the little holly to stick out of the hat, but I wanted to put some glue up the hat so it stays on there too. Okay, so that's one. And you can use your little, here I have a little silicone mat that I usually use when I'm gluing to not get glue on my table. And then the hats have dots in different spots. Let's show you one that, see? So for this hat, the holly is going to be on the other side. No big deal. You just zoom in here. I just like to show you this at different angles. Okay. Let's show you. I got to put something with color in my screen. Sorry, guys. Or else you're going to get all washed out. Let's see if that is enough color. Okay, that's better. Sorry, my balance goes a little crazy if I don't put a lot of color in my screen. So now I'm going to show you, we're going to take this hat, we'll make some holly. Okay, we'll get a piece of holly. And we'll put a little blob of glue on there. Okay, little blob of glue. I probably put too much glue. I'm always telling my craft club students, just a dot, not a lot. It'll dry clear though. Little piece of holly on the hat. Okay, so now, some of the snowmen I'm considering going this direction. I'm going to go back to my treats for a moment, just to show you. So when the holly sticks out that direction, I'm sticking them on that side of the treat topper with the holly sticking out that direction. And when the holly's going in the other direction, I'm sticking them out the right side. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this part 1 of how to create Snowman Nugget Treats using the Let It Snow suite. One more thing to show you is that if you aren't into like the whole candy thing, the craft fair thing, and you just like to do snail mail and happy mail, there's no reason you can't just do what I just showed you and create little hats and put them on bookmarks. I like to send bookmarks to my customers, and this is the same concept. Designer series paper. This is a 2-inch bookmark using the delightfully detailed punch, and that's it. Same snowman that I'm going to show you how to make in the next tutorial. This is 1.72 inches wide cardstock, 1.7 inch wide piece of designer series paper. Okay, so basically you can still use what I'm showing you. Create your cute little hats with the designer series paper and make bookmarks out of them, or cards. The possibilities are endless, endless, endless. All right, so in the next tutorial, I'm going to show you how to fuse, to make one little snowman with the fused little arms, so you don't have to use the snowman builder and do lots of extra work. Let me show you what I mean by fused arms. I'm even going to show you how to do some twinning, making a couple little snowmen together. And then we're going to cut out the stamped images using the CM350. Then I'm going to show you how to color those a little bit, giving them slight color with the alcohol blends markers. And then I'm also going to show you how to cut out the toppers for your snowman treats. And in the third part of this series, we will work with the cardstock portion of the project where we cut out the trays, the background of the toppers, and we assemble your final projects. So I hope you keep watching this series, and I hope you're gaining knowledge on how to use your ScanNCut CM350 or ScanNCut 2. Thank you for watching. This is the Papered Chef.